Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Elon Musk and Peter Zeihan both disagree on EVs and the electric vehicle future, and they are both wrong. So who am I to say this? Nobody, just a hacker, but I think about this stuff a lot. The first rule of green energy, or converting people to green energy, is bigger, better, faster, more. You need to give people some advantage. The general thought process right now, outside of something like Tesla, is to make people suck it up and live with less. This is not a good way. This is such a shitty marketing strategy. I can't believe anyone actually tries to sell this to you, right? Throw this out there and be like, this is the winning strategy. People want to do less with less stuff. No, they don't. Okay, that's silly. Bigger, better, faster, more. You don't have to pick all four of these things, but some portion of this has to apply. You know, if you want me to drive an electric truck when I'm on a farm, it's going to have to do something. It's going to have to be bigger or faster or better, less maintenance, easier to drive, less fuel cost. That's all better. More. Something more. Deregulation, no taxes. Give me something more. More reliability, more comfort, bigger, better, faster, more. Just remember, bigger, better, faster, more is really something to look at when you're looking at this field, or a lot of other green fields. So Elon Musk is making Teslas, and Teslas are awesome, and they're expensive, and they're fancy, and they have their bugs, and they have their problems, and they have their detractors, and whatever. They do a really good job most of the time. Kind of sucks if you need to repair them. Kind of sucks if you want to do the resale market. Kind of sucks if you want to customize them. But for what they are, for most people who buy them, they're a really good deal. You can't, however, switch the entire North American, global, but let's just say North American, transportation market to Teslas. It's not going to work. Teslas require far too many resources to do that. Peter likes to talk, and Peter doesn't see a future for EVs as they are now for various reasons. One is he talks about how Teslas use 10, 15 times as much nickel, cobalt, copper, other rare earths as a regular car. He's right. They use a lot more of some very expensive and scarce resources. But they don't really have to. And this is where I think Peter is wrong and Elon is wrong. So Elon Musk wants to build Teslas. He doesn't want to build Honda CVCCs, 1978 Honda CVCCs. Now this is a regulatory problem as much as it is anything else, and we'll get to that in a moment. But this is where Peter gets it wrong, is that you can build electric cars. You can build electric cars that will do everything everyone wants in a city for a significant part of the marketplace, okay? We're talking 30, 40, even 50% of the market, and that's a huge shift. You can do that by building an electric CVCC. If you're not Generation X, you may not remember the late 70s Econobox car. It was a little hatchback it was a 5-door, so it had front door, back doors, and a hatchback, and it was about half the size of a Ford Taurus. Really, literally, half the size, smaller than a Jetta, smaller than a Golf. Little tiny engine. I think they were 1,300 cc's. Got about 42 miles to the gallon. Had a 5-speed transmission. You put them on the freeway, no problem. That was double nickel era, so they weren't built to go 95 miles an hour in traffic during rush hour as like we do now. But that is a change we can make. We can shift some of that stuff without driving people too crazy. But these things existed. The problem is you can't build them now. You can't build them now because the regulatory systems are such that you can't. You have to put in a bunch of airbags, you have to put in a bunch of electronics, you have to put in this and that and the other thing, and all of a sudden now it's a $50,000 car and it's twice as big and it weighs twice as much. and making it electric would really suck and turn it into a Tesla. But if you can make a CVCC right now with current technology in electric vehicles, you can do much better than a Tesla. Probably 1/5 of the actual material resources that a Tesla requires for scarce resources. Steel, aluminum, stuff like that, we have abundance of. I'm not counting that. That doesn't matter. Okay? So that's a big deal. So you have to fight the regulations, you have to work around the regulations. You build conversion kits for old frames, old rolling frames, vehicles. You build alternative vehicles. So for example, in Arizona, you can register an ATV as a motorcycle. Just any quad, anything as a motorcycle if it passes the basic requirements. Headlights, taillights, brake light, turn signals. If it has the stuff, you can register it as a motorcycle. That is an easy way out to build something like a CVCC. Just take the doors off or make the doors optional, still have an air conditioner, and change the marketplace, okay? You can change things with that. That has a big effect, especially if you're using standardized equipment, because you can change parts, you can change components. We're going to talk about scooters for a moment in terms of that. I have a expensive electric scooter. It's really cool. It goes 40 miles an hour and it has dual suspension and nice lithium batteries and dual hub motors and really cool, and it's very expensive. And then I have a Razor electric scooter. If you know anything about this stuff, you should know the difference between a Nanorobot D5 and a Razor E300. If you know anything about electric vehicles, you should know what these two things are, roughly speaking. Absolutely know the Razor name. Razor is a basic chain drive electric motor driving a wheel, 24 volt, 2 lead acid batteries, very boring basic technology, very low powered, with a throttle and a controller that's just on off, and very very basic. They're actually overpriced at $300. There's just nothing to these. However, all of the parts are standardized and replaceable, and you can make it do 40 miles an hour, and you can make it into a 48 volt 1000 watt motor and with a variable speed throttle, and you can put front suspension on it. You can do all that, and it'll still be cheaper than my Nanorobot scooter, with good batteries, with better batteries. And that's the future of electric vehicle fleets, okay? Razors. Instead of Nanorobots. Instead of building a vehicle that is this complete package like a Tesla, what you do is you build vehicles that use common components. Common bicycle fork, common bicycle headset. That's part of the Razor scooter, electric scooter. It's common parts, common hubs, common tires. The rear wheel is different because it has a sprocket bolted on, but it's basically the same hub. If it's the hub motor driven version of a Razor scooter, then it's just a bicycle hub motor on a wheel. The only thing that's really different is the frame. Okay, the frame is built as a Razor. That's fine, that's easy, that's a simple thing to do if you have standardized components for the rest. That's the future of the EV fleet, is plug and play standardized stuff. The Razors are everywhere and they're infinitely fixable. You do have to fix them. The lead acid batteries are crap and they go out and you have to replace them. If you want it to actually perform and go more than 12 miles an hour, you're going to have to replace the controller and the batteries, possibly the motor, depends on what your deal is. And you might end up with a $500, $600, or even $900 scooter at the end, as opposed to a $1,600 Nanorobot. I'll live with it. It's a little clunkier. It's a little more like a Harley instead of a Ducati, if you're a motorcycle rider. The classic Harley, right? It's going to break down a little more often, but the parts are everywhere. That's the future of EVs. So, Elon Musk is trying to make something that's too technical to actually have broad acceptance in the market because you can't tinker with it. You don't get shade tree mechanics. You don't get the robust infrastructure around keeping them driving. Okay. There's another thing with the scooter, just to go back to that for a moment, is that I can make a packet battery for the Razor scooter where I can just take the battery out and put a new one in. If you have standardized batteries, you can do that all over the place and you don't have charging times anymore. Charging times are no longer a problem. You have batteries. And you're going to have to pay for and monitor and do all your stuff to do your exchanges and everything. I know there's a system for that. But you can refuel in 30 seconds. Well, 2 minutes, whatever. As long as it takes to latch and unlatch the batteries. That's way better than having to plug into a charger. That's easy. In some cases, the battery packs are small enough or will fit in a place where you can just double up. For example, if I was doing a Honda CVCC conversion, if I didn't have passengers in the back seat, fold them down and have a plug-in for a second battery pack, and then I've doubled my range, 1.9 times my range because I'm carrying a little extra weight. There you go. You have answers, you have solutions because you have a broader, deeper infrastructure. Teslas are too tied to Tesla for it to work. And everyone who's doing EVs right now seems to be trying to do the same thing, except for some of the people doing e-bikes and some of the people doing e-scooters who are working with widely available standardized kind of controllers and throttles and battery packs and stuff. That's the future of EVs. I don't think automation in piloting, driving, is necessarily as big a deal as people think it is. I wouldn't be trying to do a startup on that. I think that is coming. I think it's coming from the big players. But if I was going to do a startup in the electric vehicle world right now, I would be working on trying to standardize components, make battery exchanges, and either retrofit or create alternative vehicles, neighborhood vehicles, licensed golf carts, whatever. Some of them will be highway capable, especially if you're doing a Ranger conversion or a VW conversion or a Honda CVCC conversion, if you're doing conversion kits, right? Weld the axles, put hub motors on. It's an answer, trust me. Hub motors are a really good idea for a lot of this stuff because you get rid of the engine and the transmission, and it gets rid of a lot of the parts. And if a hub motor goes out, you just pull it and replace it and send the old one in for servicing. I think this is a really good system. Retrofitting older vehicles to use hub motors is possible. Basically, what I'm saying about welding the axles is kind of what you do. Make it so the axle doesn't turn anymore. Make sure that it's rigid to the frame itself so that you don't pull the axles off the car when you go. And you put on hub motors. The other way, of course, is to just replace the engine with an electric motor system and battery pack and have that drive the transmission, which is fine for a manual. Something like a CVCC, that's a great idea. It's a great marketplace. Making that standardizing that and putting it out there would be a really good deal if you can get the battery packs to work without a lot of effort. That's the main problem right now, is all the effort. It has to be customized, has to fit in the trunk, have to do this, have to do that. You got to get rid of that as much as possible for retrofits. And that's it. That's where I would be in the EV space. I think that Musk and Peter are both wrong for different reasons. I think that Peter doesn't see hacking as a viable actual market space, and I don't think that Musk does either. So that's it. That ends my whole little briefing. This is just stuff I've been thinking about and wanting to talk about for a little while. My idea of some disruptive technologies or manufacturing or business ideas that are coming down the pike. So we talked about Ancapistan and the Bitcoin and 3D printers. 3D printers are great, but they're not going to replace anything. What you need is not mobile, but agile manufacturers that can do a lot of things for a reasonable price. Consumerism models, we talked about loyalty service subscription models and how they have to actually work. We talked about cheap energy over and over and over. America is the land of cheap energy. Invest in energy that's going to work that way. Okay, that's the thing to do. And then electric vehicles, I think it's a really big space. I think travel is a really big deal, but I think that people are looking at it incorrectly. And as a bonus, I think that people are looking at wind power incorrectly too. Instead of these really expensive, massive polycarbonate exotic material windmills, we need to get back to American-made, infinitely recyclable materials, aluminum, steel, bronze, copper, and just make metal windmills that go everywhere. Small ones that do 5, 10, 20 kilowatts, not megawatt ones. Small ones all over the place, distributed power generation. Put that up and see what happens. I think that's actually one of our future areas of potential manufacturing. There's regulatory issues there, but EVs definitely invest in standardization of parts and battery exchange systems. So that's it. Stay sideways.